And just like that, it is Thursday morning, 10 o'clock. Actually, what is it? 10:01. My name is Leon McIntosh, and welcome to this read-along series where we're going through this book, Dotcom Secrets by Russell Brunson. First off, I apologize. I am a day late because there has been like some massive... Ooh. There we go. There has been some massive power grid issues where I live. In terms of power going in and out, which is why the broadcast on Monday was chopped up into two different parts. So I gave it an extra day and we seem to be okay now. But going through this book, really the purpose of this whole thing is more of an accountability piece for me, to keep reading it, to kind of understand the concepts, maybe collaborate a little bit with some folks to understand and make sure that the concepts are interpreted right, applied right, that kind of stuff. And then three and four. Three is, applying it to my own business, trying to make sure that, it's that time of year where you're planning for next year, seeing where we can kind of fill in some gaps with Swift Interactive and how we can meet our goals for 2019. And then really the other thing is to help our clients get better going forward too, right? Because in our business, we're looked at as the experts and we've done a lot, we've helped a lot of people, we've sold a lot of product, but always trying to stay on that cutting edge and always trying to help everybody, further their stores, their e-commerce stores, further their sales processes, and all that fun stuff. So with that said, thank you for stopping by. If you are watching, I appreciate it. If you're not, no big deal, right? This is a set it up and let it eat kind of situation where I'm just in my office and I got my whiteboard, trusty whiteboard here, and we're gonna go through it. So the other day we went through, I went through sections 1 and 2, and to kind of recap those, section 1 was about really being honest and asking yourself, who is your ideal customer, right? Who is the dream client in essence? But it asks you a couple questions to help you understand who it is. Maybe not from it's a female or male between the ages of 30 and 40. Maybe not from that standpoint, but more of what do they do? What are their interests? What are they into? That kind of stuff. Get a little bit more granular than the typical demographic information that everybody's used to. The second thing, and probably the most important, is as you build out your business, really no matter what it is, was understanding what your value ladder is in it, right? And I'll move over here because this is ours, and you may not be able to see it, but I talked about it earlier this week. And for me, for Swift, as we go forward in our digital space, what it's going to be or what it's going to turn into, we're going to morph a little bit. We used to always bring people in at this, the fourth step here in building, whether it was new projects, new websites, things of that nature. That was our entry point into Swift, and it would hopefully lead, or we would also get custom work, which would end up higher on the scale. But we didn't really have anything on the lower part. And I think that, that's becoming more important to breaking down barriers, to building trust, and working with some folks. So for us, we're going to start doing a lot more online tutorials that we'll post on YouTube, we'll post on a blog, we'll use a newsletter, some promotional material. And that stuff we could give away for free. Those are things we'll be able to use as our bait, according to the book, but really to help build some trust. We're going to get into a little bit more hosting. We'll push more for hosting of websites. And like I said, it's not a big driver of business, but it's something that we do really well and something that we can help. It's a pain point we can help solve for some people, because if you're not in the digital space, it's you can go spend all this money on building a really great website or product, but if you have a really crappy hosting situation or hosting environment, your site's going to be slow and it can cause some issues. So we'll probably put another focus on hosting, because that's it's a small investment. It's a step up in the value ladder of somewhere where we can add value to somebody's business or situation, which will lead us into our more hourly work. maintenance work, ongoing work for some of these clients that we can build better relationships with, then, obviously we'll keep going up into new projects, new websites, things of that nature, and then full custom builds, right? And then this graph here, what's important to know is it's, value on the left, revenue on the bottom, and, hopefully we're adding more and creating and making more as we go through. Dan Green. What's up, Bubba? So that's ours, and I think this is an important piece. I wanted to recap that because that's an important piece of going forward in this book and understanding kind of what you offer in terms to your clients in terms of how to get somebody in and make the most of that customer or client. And this is difficult, right? Like for us, we are a client services business. If you are an e-commerce store, which I know a lot of my friends out there are, if you have an e-commerce store, this is a bit more difficult because ultimately what you have is product, and it's how do you create, your product might be in the middle here, but how do you create the value on the bottom of this that helps people build trust in you other than just having a nice looking store? What information can you provide? What kind of material, educational, informational, like that kind of stuff that can help those people make decisions. So for us, we're a B2B play. But this, I would advise you to kind of like think about this in terms of, how you can do it, whether it's your direct to consumer e-commerce, whether you are just a consultation type business, but understand where this goes and understand how it hits, who your dream client is from section 1. But I'll jump into it here, right? Today we're still in section 1. We're going through secrets 3, 4, and 5. And what these are going to do is build on 1 and 2 because my understanding is so far I have not read ahead. I'm reading this book as I do these broadcasts. So my understanding is that from reading these is that this section 1 is gonna be kind of the foundation and the base, and you're gonna use what you create or what you develop or what you come up with here to build on later. So section 3 talks about taking your value ladder into a funnel, right? And when he says funnel, what we know of as a funnel is, and that's a really bad drawn funnel, but bear with me here, right? So, and you put customers in or potential clients in, and then you ultimately get sales, money out at some point. And what it is it's taking your different steps of your funnel are the different steps of your value ladder. But I think what I want to say is I think there's a misconception when you talk about these, in that everybody thinks it's this nice smooth, you're going to get specific percentages at each point, and industry averages may show that, but industry average doesn't always apply. And one platform that I love looking at is MailChimp, because MailChimp will tell you like, hey, industry average for whatever industry you've selected is 10% open rates. Dude, ain't nobody opening 10% of emails. I highly doubt it. But maybe they are, and that may go into something we talk about. But what you need to consider is you may have a really thick at the top, and then it may just kind of come in like those fancy funnels you get for cooking and whatnot. So it might get really thin. You're obviously, as you go further down the funnel, you're going to get some drop off. Your attrition numbers will go up. And that kind of stuff. But that's what it is. Your funnel is essentially should be your value ladder. And I'll go through here. I've made some highlights. He asks some questions right here on the first page. It's 1, we build a funnel to help us do 2 things. 1 is provide value to each customer at a unique level of service he or she can afford. I think the key point of that is the unique level of service, right? If you're a service-based business, customer service is probably the number one thing you can do and offer, particularly at the different levels. So figure out what your processes are at your different. So how do we serve hosting? What's the best way to interact with those clients? How do we serve our hourly clients? What's the best way to interact, and what are the processes and operating procedures that go along with that? Number 2 was make money and be profitable while identifying your dream clients who can afford our highest offer. So how do we make money and stay profitable at these to get here, right? To get to our top, essentially. And that's where it goes back to establishing what your processes are and really being honest with what you need. Like after talking to my partner, hosting, while it's down on the value ladder, if we scale that pretty big, the costs almost become prohibitive in some manner. So we got to make sure we drive these people to hourly work or get them on some sort of hourly plan to make sure that the hosting really breaks out. So I would advise you to think about what in that ladder has high costs associated with it and what you can do to balance them out. And then the other thing is I highlighted here, it's your job to convert as many people as possible into repeat customers. I think a lot of people, a misconception is you put people in, they're just going to go through the funnel and you just make money, right? You're going to set up these different things. You're going to say, hey, like if you bought this, you should get this, and just go through the system, but it's actually your job. I think people don't do the work on the backside of the funnel to say, to get clients or customers from one step to the other. So that's pretty important. Let's go through here. So he talks about taking it to a funnel, and then he says, so a sales funnel is just the online process you take someone through to get them to ascend through the different levels of your value ladder. So what is your process, right? Like I just talked about that. What is your process? How do you, each step is going to take a specific set of actions to move somebody to the next, or there's going to be specific flags in that. Secret number 4. And this one's interesting to me because, I'll get into it here. I'll tell you on the backside of why it's interesting to me. But secret number 4 is how to find dream customers. Where do you go? What do you do? And you know what? This is the $1 million question, right? You've built this badass website. You've built this cool, restaurant. You have, put something together, invested time, money, a ton of effort, but how do you find the right customers? And what he says is he uses the concept of congregations, which obviously you probably, like me and like he references in the book, are going to think of church, right? And churches are congregations. My baby girl screaming in the background there. But congregations are places where people go, like-minded individuals want to go, want to hang out, such as forums, chat rooms, Facebook groups, places online, places in the real world, in brick and mortar world, where, your target or your dream client might hang out. And he talks about identifying those. Usually it's pretty easy. You got a lot of tools to do that nowadays. You can Google basically anything and get tens of thousands of results. And he says, which is funny because this is actually something I do already, but his line in the book is, just go to Google and type in your keyword plus the word forum at the end, or search for groups related to your keywords on Facebook. Yeah, look, not rocket science there, right? But the point is, I think, is to, really understand, really think about where your dream clients or potential clients are hanging out online. Sometimes it's easy. I mean, sometimes it's networking groups on meetup.com. Sometimes it's Facebook groups. Your product may or may not be able to be advertised on Facebook. So you've got to look at different ways to get to these groups and market to these groups. That's a whole, I could spend days on that, right? Because I've got clients across several different industries that have that same problem of how to reach these different groups. And that's probably something I'll make a video on later. But if you're going to do Facebook advertising, the point is to be targeted. What I have learned, particularly through this holiday season, doing some A/B testing with different ads and different email campaigns and some different marketing tactics, is the broad campaign never wins. The broad campaign of just slapping up something that says, hey, 5, 10, 15, 20% off, almost rarely wins. It's when you do that targeted, very specific to your store. Like let's take let's say I'm an online boutique or a boutique in particular, saying that you, rather than saying come in and take 20% off the store, you're probably better off to say take 20% off men's or women's t-shirts, that kind of stuff. You need to be more specific and more targeted with your promotions or advertising, particularly when you're finding different groups to talk to. So he goes on, let's see here. Question number 1 is, who is your target market, which he asks. And one thing he mentions is, just like I said, is consumers demand advertising be extremely relevant to them. Lots of voicemails, lots of missed calls. Extremely relevant to them. Look, no joke, man. I turn it off too. We're all people. Ultimately, we're advertising to people, not just someone, you know, that's solely a robot at a specific job and only looking for specific things related to their job. So it's important to keep that in mind. I think he asks some pretty good questions in here where he says, what were my desires when he was looking at particular advertisements? What were my desires? What got me excited? Where did I look for more information? What words and phrases was I searching for? What magazines did I read? He's trying to figure out what the mindset is at the time of, you know, interpreting that ad. One thing, I'll go back to Gary Vee. I said it last time. I used a quote of his in the first one, but Gary Vee says the creative is the variable in your advertising, meaning you could have a great offer, you could have a great store. If your ad sucks, if the creative isn't good, then it's not going to convert. So I think right now you definitely, because online competition or just marketing competition is getting so intense, the creative has to be on point. You've got to really be putting together some rock star type stuff to grab somebody's attention. And what I would say is think about the medium too, where you're doing it. If you're doing an ad on a website, or if you're doing remarketing ads, and you know, let's say it's like a lifestyle type situation where you're trying to sell t-shirts again, and you know somebody's come to your site, but they're going to go to, I don't know, I'm big into triathlons, but they're going to go to like competitor.com and click around and look at races, and your ad's going to run. What can you do to that ad to make it pop off the page? I think what we do most of the time, or what a lot of people do, is try to create things that look aesthetically connected together, that everything looks cohesive, right? But what you need to do in advertising is you need to jump off the page and grab attention. You don't need to look with the same color palette, the same, you know, aesthetic appeal as the website. You need to be the one that's jumping off saying, hey, you need to click this right now. So that's one. Where's your target market congregating? Target market's made up of real people. He acknowledges that. How can you get a customer to leave the congregation and check out your funnel? That's what I just talked about. He uses the example of the National Enquirer, which I thought was super interesting, because look, they have a key point in grocery stores and really places altogether, is they're at the checkout line. When you're standing there for 5 minutes, you waiting on the person in front of you, the first thing you look at is the National Enquirer, because they got the shock headline. It usually has the different colors that are standing out, and it looks so much different than the other magazines. So when you're thinking about what do I do in terms of my advertising, what do I do to grab attention, you should really think about the National Enquirer. That's a damn good point that he made in here, and you know, something to really figure out how you can apply to what you're trying to do. And look, that goes to advertising. I mean, look, with your website, you know, you want to keep that cohesive. But if you're trying to build like landing pages, squeeze pages, that kind of stuff to create action, probably better off to break the mold a little bit and make something that pops. He calls them interrupt style ads, which is actually a pretty apt name for them. Let's see here. All right, number 5, and the third of this, which number 5 is honestly probably the most important so far, or second most important behind understanding your value ladder. Number 5 talks about the 3 types of traffic. This is huge. Because to me, right now, particularly when you're talking about marketing your business, whatever in the hell you are, I don't care if you're a real estate agent, I don't care if you are a ditch digger, you sell stuff online, you are a consultant, whatever, this is important. And when he talks about the 3 types of traffic, and it's traffic you control, traffic you don't control, and traffic you own. This one's important to me because I think what we all do, anybody, everybody, is takes the traffic you don't control and thinks that's traffic we do control, where we don't at all. We have zero control. I heard a statistic just the other day that Instagram, so let's say you built this big ass Instagram following, you take really awesome pictures, but the problem is you know, on Instagram, you post a new picture, paid promotion, whatever. You only reach 10% of your audience. So you got 100,000, you're only hitting 10,000, your picture's still getting 3,000 likes, 4,000 likes maybe, but you're only getting 10% of your audience. What about the other 90,000 people that follow you? And I'm just using 100,000 for round numbers. If you got less than that, which I do, most do, you know, that's a pretty terrible conversion rate, right? And we go to such great lengths to create such beautiful pictures, create such beautiful content for our social channels that, you know, it almost doesn't make sense, right? And of course there's things in Instagram's algorithm, you know, if you're in some of these in the know groups, there's some things that if you get comments, you need to respond for at least the next 2 hours after it's posted, and Instagram will keep pushing you up, maybe get more engagement. But I've heard you only engage 10 to 15% of your audience. So yes, Instagram is important, but think about how you don't own that traffic, right? There's 90,000 people that are looking for your content that aren't getting it because you don't control whether they see it or not. You know, and that applies to all of our social channels. That applies to your Facebook page. That applies to, I mean, everything. He's got it in here. Traffic you don't control. That applies to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, LinkedIn, Pinterest. I love Pinterest. I think Pinterest is the biggest opportunity missed right now. Search traffic, SEO traffic. Look, I got clients who every time there's a damn update to the Google algorithm, they drop and they wonder why. Well, that's because we don't control. You don't control the SEO of your site. Guest blog traffic, YouTube. YouTube's no different. This broadcast I'm doing, you know, YouTube determines what should be pushed up and what shouldn't, and guest interviews. So that's traffic you don't control, and I bring that up because we all focus on that the most, and we shouldn't. Or we should focus on how to take that traffic and make it traffic we own. He talks about traffic you do control. And traffic you do control is kind of the paid placement, is really the paid ads, right? Is your paid Google ads, is your paid email banner native affiliates and joint ventures, that kind of stuff. So if you do pay-per-click on Facebook, yes, you do control it because those are people who have clicked on your ad and you control where they go and what they see, which is what we get into in the end of this book. He says the important thing is how do you turn traffic you do control into traffic you own? And he uses squeeze pages that have one goal, no distractions. There's only one thing for a visitor to do on this page, right? So think about how you can create a page that is solely based around one product, whether it's an ad, whether it's a guide, a book, or, you know, something you want to help people with. How do you set that page up? And he's going to go into this, but how do you, not only do you set that page up, but what is the one thing you want them to do when they get there, right? And then the last thing, which he actually talks about first, is traffic you own. Now, what is traffic you own? That is your email list, essentially. That's your email list, that's your readers, that's your hardcore followers, that's your customers, people who have purchased from you, people that have shown that they trust you. I used to think up until recently, I would, like many people, we got to do Facebook ads, we got to do Instagram stuff, we got to post on Pinterest, post on all these with hopes of people are going to see it and just come in droves, right? But over time, I've always known the email list was important, but honestly, I've kind of evolved to think that the email list you should live and die by. You should focus on growing your email list, because if people have trusted you enough to give you their email address. They've shown they have an interest in your product. They believe that you are an expert in that field maybe, and they're willing to listen to the offers that you make. So, you know, when you send out a Christmas email, hey, Christmas is coming up, check out our sale, you're more apt to get sales from that than if you're just waiting on traffic you don't own. Just Google, you know, organic traffic, social traffic, that may just be window shoppers. So that's section 5. You know, we're going to start, that closes out section 1. Just to recap, I mean, what we did in this one is we kind of did the who, what, why, when, where situation. It's the who do we want to work with, what are we offering our clients, how do they flow through our different product offerings, and how does it all tie together? What do we own of that? You know, how do we establish who is a potential and who isn't? And that goes back to the traffic piece. So that completes section 1 of the book. We're going to do section 2. I don't know when we're going to do it. Should we do it Saturday? I don't know. Stay tuned. I'm going to post it up everywhere. I'll set up a YouTube live reminder. But if you got any questions, comments, concerns, you can, it's on this side, leon@leonmacintosh.com. You shoot me an email. That goes right to me, obviously. LeonMacintosh24 on Facebook. That's my professional page, we'll call it. And then my personal Instagram is LeonMac24 again. So, you know, thanks for watching. I appreciate it if you have made it this far. I realize, you know, it's not always fun, but like I said, I'm hoping this is an accountability piece for me to keep reading, and I'm hoping we can, you know, have some collaboration and discussion on how to apply these, because I think you read these books so many times and you walk away not understanding the concepts fully. So that's what this is an exercise in collaboration and understanding how to apply what some of these people are saying to the real world. So that's all I got for you. Enjoy the weekend if I don't talk to you. Happy Thursday, and we'll talk to you soon.